Coming up, we talk the disappointment of whatever that performance was at home from the New Jersey Devils. We ask some bold questions like, does this team know that a hockey game lasts 60 minutes? And also, feel free to score anytime before midway through the third. We dive in coming up next. Yes, sir. It's DPL, the Devil's Puck Luck podcast, where we are your host over here, Adam Armbrecht, over there, Danny McDonough. And this is a 4-2 loss for the New Jersey Devils at home against the Washington Capitals, who they now trail 2-0 in the season series. Danny, just from a high level, let people behind the curtain. You were being totally rational and reasonable throughout the course of this game, if I'm not mistaken.
Listen, the best way I can put this is play stupid games, win stupid prizes, right? You take 40 minutes of a hockey game off, you're going to lose 99% of the time. The Devils did that, and they lost. No matter how much we battle back in the third period, no matter how good of a team you can be in one period, if you take two periods off, you're never going to win, especially against a veteran team. You obviously saw good things in the third period, but it's not going to overcome what happened in the first two periods, obviously.
Yeah, I find it hard to look at this game, somewhat objectively. I've talked about before, like you and I say, you say 15 games, I say 20 games to get a sample size. We know the Devils are dealing with no Jack Hughes, with no Nico Hischier. You're shuffling these lines, so there's an element where you want to have Danny turn off some noise in the background, and then look at this as being, early season injuries. It's rough. And I think you could live with that. Like, you could come in a game like this and say, yeah, they're trying to adjust. This is a hectic time of year for the Devils right now. If they came out and played with a team that looked cohesive, that looked like they were ready to come out with a game plan. And this is where you and I were even texting back and forth. Is it what's happening on the ice or what's happening behind the bench? Who's responsible for what's going on in a game like this? We're not going to overreact to it being a loss. But just because you even text me, coaching. I said, I look at the dudes on the ice. I don't exactly see inspired play. It probably lies somewhere in the middle.
The only reason why I'm saying coaching is because we don't see consistent lines like Ruff is doing. He's juggling things around, and I don't think he's playing the right players with the right players on specific lines. We see it with Holtz. We know what he's going to do with Holtz. That's a prime example for me. He's not good 5-on-5 defensively. He's not. He gave the puck away so much tonight. Look how much offense that he generated just on that power play in literally 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, he generated two really good scoring chances. And I think if you put him with guys that are playmakers and goal scorers, I think you're giving him a legitimate shot to generate more offense when is needed. I understand Lindy Ruff's way of thinking that it's always defense first, winning the puck battles first. But if that is the case, man, what's up with Palat? Palat just looks lifeless out there. There's moments where, like you say it, you talk about it all the time. Bastian looks lifeless.
Yeah.
So it's really the entire team you can really just come down on. Do I think it's coaching? 50%. Do I think it's the players? I know that you think it's the players. It's tough because with Jack and Nico out, you need someone to step up here. And we talk about that spark. You and I were talking about texting, back and forth. What is that spark? Is it someone like Bastian who hasn't done anything offensively, who hasn't done much at all for this team right now? Doesn't mean he gets into a scrap. Is that going to spark his team? I know that they're not built like that, and you and I have a little bit differing opinions when it comes to that to spark a team. But, I think it's 50-50. I think a lot of this is coaching, and it's what it is now, obviously, because we extended him. But, obviously it falls on the players as well.
Oh, hold on. Sorry. Hold on here. I'll get into the fight to spark somebody. What do you mean? What happened? You just casually at the end of that sentence slipped in. I mean, we extended him, so it is what it is. You just inferred that it is what it is. Lindy Ruff, this is what we got to deal with. So you just went from Lindy Ruff, who led this team to the playoffs last year, beat the New York Rangers after a 7-5 1 start.
No, it is what it is.
You go, it is what it is. We have to deal with it.
No. Don't put words into my mouth.
You just said we extended them. It is what it is.
Exactly. So we have to deal with it. If they're going to be games where coaches don't do well, there's going to be moments.
I know. Okay, but so I'm not putting words in your mouth. You just said it again. You said it is what it is. We have to deal with it. He has his coaching style is his coaching style. But to say we have to deal with it, that implies that something different should have been done, that he shouldn't have been extended, that someone else, that you would prefer somebody else be the head coach.
No,
Saying,
it's I'm that's not what I mean, but I think it's a coaching. I think this is coaching, from the top down. The coach is gonna say it's him too. It's his
yeah,
responsibility.
okay, that's fine. All right,
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm implying. I'm not implying like we extended him, so we got to deal with it. Lindy Ruff, he's proven to be a great coach, and he deserved to get that extension.
right.
My point, it is what it is. Like as fans, we know what he's going to do, and we have to live with what he's going to do. But I put it on coaching when you're in a slump like this and you're playing poorly, that it's the coach that really needs to change things up. Like we talk about changing the defensive pairing, like we talk about changing up the scoring lines. Not like, oh, it is what it is. We have Ruff and he sucks and I want him gone. I do not want.
Okay, because I just want to,
No, no,
because
I do
just
not want.
okay, just to clean this up here,
No,
because
I
Danny clearly said what he was not implying was that we extended Lindy Ruff and this is what we have to deal with. When he said we extended Lindy Ruff, so we have to deal with it. That's just clarifying Danny's language. It's a late night for Dan. I'm busting your chops because inside
Yeah,
of the
I
coach,
don't know why you think that means that I'm saying he needs to go. But yeah, I'm not implying he
I'm
needs
not
to go.
saying no. If you want to get in the muck and the mire about this, I'm not saying you're saying he needs to go. You just your clarification when you said we extended him, so it is what it is. You clarified that by saying just because I said just because I said that doesn't mean that we extended him and it is what it is and we have to deal with it. Like he has his coaching style and we have to think about how that impacts the team. But that's the way that you phrase that, right? Not, well, we extended him, so he's our head coach. What else can we do? Like that infers that you think that he has flaws, which every coach does and every player does. But you makes it sound like you fundamentally disagree with the way that he runs the team, which to the point of this on the ice, and this goes all the way back to preseason, right? You and I, in theory, liked the fact that we saw consistency in the line combinations over the course of camp and preseason.
Mhm.
Then we got to the regular season and he made some changes, like taking Holt and moving him down the lines, right? Some guys shuffling up, some injuries maybe impacted that as well. An area that we can focus in on that we saw an adjustment in this game, Luke Hughes playing with Marino. Now, I had said I preferred that Luke play higher on the defensive pairings for multiple reasons. Like I'd like to see the combinations where his defensive pairing also gets on the ice with the most dangerous offensive set too as well, because you want to maximize what he is. Tonight was a game where Smith had some good moments. I wouldn't go as far, and I'm not doing this just to disagree with you. I wouldn't go as far as say it's the best game of Smith's season so far. I thought the third period was really good for him, and he made some really nice plays on the boards, including a somewhat impressive hit that took out two Washington Capitals in some weird way behind the goal. But these are the weird moments when, because you're down Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes, I would be experimenting all the time. I would experiment throughout the course of a game. And
Mhm.
I thought Lindy did a bit of that. He double shifted McLeod a bunch. He switched up the defensive pairings. He finally brought in Holtz. Now, would you say that one of your points of contention is that you said maybe put Holtz up higher on the lines to start automatically after the injuries to Hughes and with Hischier being out, and then he ends up being dropped down, and now we're talking about the world where he can end up being a healthy scratch at some point going forward?
Lindy Ruff had his worst game as a coach this season for the Devils. He was bad coaching. He put Palat out there, who absolutely sucked tonight.
Who did you want out there
In the
instead of
last,
Palat?
when they're down 3-2 with 2 minutes left, you're putting Palat out there with Haula, who hasn't done anything offensively. You put playmakers out there. You put someone who's going to win a faceoff, McLeod, who's been winning faceoffs. You
Yeah.
don't want Haula to take a faceoff there. But why are you putting that Palat line out? You're pulling Schmid to put Haula and Palat out there, who showed nothing. Palat has shown nothing. He's lost every single battle. I'd rather have McLeod out there with Holtz. Put Holtz out there. If you're not going to put your top line out there, put Holtz out there. I just thought that Lindy Ruff was pushing every single wrong button tonight. So what I mean by him
Now, I did pull VTech immediately, which I think was the right move, right? Obviously,
yeah,
like looking to try to send some type of measure there. And I want to get into the goaltending. I agree. I agree with you. Like on a microcosm of this game, I don't think, again, so let's take it from the bench and then onto the ice, right? I don't think Lindy Ruff pushed all the right buttons here, or he majoritively pushed wrong buttons, not right buttons, right? There's a couple of them you could agree with, and the majority you'd say, not great. Then the other part is, though, then you get on the ice, though. Like to your point, should he be putting Palat out there in the third period when you're down one goal? No, you should be going with your playmakers. Also, what the heck's going on, Palat? Like you're supposed to be an important player for this team, and you haven't been showing up. We did see Dawson Mercer finally woke up in the third period, right? So we think maybe this is a spark kind of game for him. But by and large, and I'll shout out to Ramona Rice in the chat here, like I think there are a couple of guys that did put together good games. McLeod had a very good game, I thought. What's been troubling to me is that Jesper Bratt has not been playing well after Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier have gone out. And that was surprising to me because early in the season, I didn't look at it as, oh, Bratt's playing so well because of the presence of. I thought he was just, hey, watch out. I'm about to put together this incredible season, and he still can. But the fact that this lull has come in perfect conjunction with these injuries is a little bit alarming for me.
Yeah, we saw him kind of be a little streaky at times last year. We saw it at the end of the year. We saw it in the playoffs. He didn't do too much offensively. Let's hope that's not, a theme to what's going to be going on with Jesper
Yeah.
Bratt. I think he'll be fine. But yeah, he's a guy you need to step up. Timo and Mercer did step up. I thought they played well tonight. Mercer
Mhm.
played pretty well at center ice position. We were talking about it. He had great chances early in this game too that he just missed. So, I
Yeah.
think the goals are going to come from Mercer. I really like his game as a whole. He just had a really tough start to the year. Yeah, but I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on with Palat. It's tough. It's really tough, and I understand everybody talks about the contract and he's making $6 million a year. Putting that aside, it's just so strange because he's such a physical player. He's really strong on the puck, but he's not even doing that now.
Yeah.
So it's always odd to me that he's on the top two lines. And you're not moving other players up. And maybe you can say, hey, listen, because Holtz is not good defensively, I get it. You don't want to put him up there, but that's where I think that I strongly disagree with Ruff. Like, what do you have to lose if you have, your goaltender pulled, with 2 minutes left, 3-2 game, you see that you need the offense. Palat has done nothing. Like, if a fan sees it, clearly the coaching staff sees it too, but he's just not producing. So, it's tough. And to your point too, it's Marino and Hughes together is a good thing. So I hope that,
Yeah.
the one shining point here is that he sees that they play well together and he plays them, together on Tuesday as well.
Do you look at it then as before? I want to get to the goaltending thing because I think you and I actually stumbled onto an interesting talking point here in the short term going forward for the Devils. But do you look at it too as like, okay, so maybe you should have sat down Palat, but you did sit down Timo early in the season, right? When he was underperforming. Is there an element to it where like I see, 'cause I think I would agree with you on this point that I can go ahead and sit a lot of dudes down in this game and sacrifice the loss, right? Now they end up losing anyway, so it's almost regardless. But it's like I'm going to sacrifice this game, and I'm going to sit down Palat, and I'm going to sit down player X, and I'm going to sit down player Y, and I know that the result on the ice is going to be negative. But then I think you would come in a post game and say, "Hey, message being sent here," as opposed to picking and choosing. Well, okay, I'm going to make a quick pull here on VTech. But Palat, you're going to ride out this game. There's something about that I wonder if it's a balancing act for Lindy Ruff or if there's any sense of loyalty to player X or player Y, because it's confusing when you think back to Timo being sat down. That was like it was no big deal. I'm going to sit him down. He said the right thing in the locker room. I said the right thing at the press conference. We're all good. Why not Palat? Sometimes I think it's because it's not like Palat has an exponential ceiling.
Mhm.
So you have to kind of live with it. It's like be like Brendan Smith. Can you just sit down Brendan Smith when he has a bad shift? Well, not really, because where's the expectations lie with a player like that?
Um, yes and no. I mean, Timo sat because he took two terrible penalties. I think Lindy
Right.
Ruff's thing is like if you take crappy penalties, you're gonna sit. And you saw that with Marino too. He was just playing terribly when he benched him too. But Palat doesn't take bad penalties. He is a disciplined player. You don't see him taking many penalties at all. And you do need his physical presence. And if he's not going to use his body on the boards, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And you see that in the first 40 minutes of the game. And it's not just him. I know we're picking on him right now, but it's not him. It's the whole team. It just looked like there was a lull that the Devils just didn't come to play. That they looked tired. I don't know why they would look tired. Just getting smacked around against the Avalanche in Colorado, but they looked lifeless. They just looked like they weren't as engaged as the Capitals were. And they're such a better team on paper. You look at what the Devils are, with their core, they have more playmakers. You're playing a veteran Washington team that's going to come in and they're going to put the pedal to the metal when they can, took advantage of their chances. That second goal, with Luke Hughes deflection off the stick for VTech and then VTech gets pulled. You can't really blame VTech on that because the puck changed directions, and the problem is that Luke Hughes is doing what he needs to do as a defenseman. Obviously, he's getting
Yeah.
in the way of the offensive player come down the ice. It's a difficult situation. I do agree with you. I think that was the one coaching move I would agree with, just to spark the team to get Akira in there. And I think we all been waiting for Akira, right? Because Akira played well in St. Louis, and we were hoping that he would get back onto the ice and get a start. So I think he deserves to start on Tuesday. I'm sure you would agree with me that Akira came in and he shut it down for the Devils. Minus that 2-on-0.
Pace yourself, pace yourself. Let's get to this goaltending discussion here coming up in just 1 second. And also what we think now that the Devils have lost these back-to-back games here, what is the adjustment that should be getting made here? And the theme of a team that does not seem to come ready to play from the initial puck drop more often than not. Before we do that, though, tell you about our friends over at DraftKings. My goodness, you guys know that the NFL season is going strong, and DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking up new customers with an offer that's even stronger. You bet just $5 on any game this week, and you can score $200 instantly in bonus bets. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweetener offer every single game day throughout the month of November. Big time pick 'em here, Danny. I've got Houston. They're visiting Cincinnati. They're getting 6 points with an over-under set at 47. Who are you taking?
Cincinnati -6. Best team in the NFL right now.
Best team in the NFL right now. Danny's not aware that he has now this team playing in a fantasy league that we run, and T. Higgins will not be a part of the action on that particular matchup.
He's out.
Though, yeah.
I didn't know he was out.
That's right. And Joe Burrow, I would say, is the best quarterback in the NFL right now, but I'm not giving Cincinnati the title of being the best team. Give me the points. Give me Houston in a road upset. That's not going to work out well for me. But you can get on the game day greatness by downloading DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use promo code
THPN.
New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets when you bet $5 on the NFL. That's promo code
THPN.
Oh, only DraftKings Sportsbook has this action, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.100gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly at Half of Boot Hills Casino Resort. Licensee partner, Golden Nugget Lake Charles. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void. And our friends to the north, Ontario, Canada. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources. Resources. And so, my friend, many Devils fans were stated to be seen.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Screaming violently into the sun on a night like this. We talk about, before we get to the goaltending, just very quickly on the debate around getting physical and getting into some of these altercations to spark the team. This is something that I think it doesn't bother me, but I find it funny that the way we end up labeling it is Danny is old school and I'm new school. And it's not true. If this was a physical, gritty team, then I would say that's what the Devils should do. But that's not who they are. They are a fast team. They are a team that's supposed to get out and make you chase them. They're supposed to be allegedly at least a fundamentally decent defensive team, something they're not. So on that point, though, I mean, we saw them get a little scrappy. There was a little bit of a chippy play involving Timo Meier after the empty netter. I don't mind the players showing frustration because they need to, but it's just that this idea that should be a part of what they need to do, I think, is a team by team identity decision, not a blanket statement like, hey, sometimes you got to pick that fight to spark your team. Who are you sparking? Like, everybody should already be like, I don't know what that's going to inspire for this version of the Devils.
Yeah, no, I understand. I totally disagree with you. I think it's great to try to scrap with someone in the second period when the Devils are literally lifeless. You know, we are an offensive team. We are a fast team, but when we're not doing any of that, just like, changing a goaltender could spark a team, a big hit can spark a team. A big power play, a big penalty kill. When nothing is going your way, scrapping, that old school mentality of scrapping. When Bastian has not been playing well, do something to spark your team. Smith, same way. Do something to spark your team. That's just always been my mentality. It's all teams do it. The Edmonton Oilers do it. Evander Kane goes out there. The Edmonton Oilers are a fast flying team. Evander Kane's going to go out there and he's going to scrap with someone. Luke Schenn, defenseman, very defensive defenseman. He's going to scrap. Because it's part of the physicality and what the Devils, I think the Devils are soft right now. That's my biggest thing with the Devils. I think they're a very soft team, one of the softer teams in the league. And again, I totally agree with you that we're a fast team and we're not going to be that high fighting, high physicality, going to throw as many hits as other teams because then we lose who we are. But when you're losing 3-0 to the Capitals and you played horrendous hockey up to the end of the second period, I don't see a problem with fighting.
Yeah, and listen, tomato, but or tomato, potato. But it's like in the example of Bastian, it's like, so after you've played not horrible, but after you've played a lackluster game and you haven't really been serving your role and you haven't really been accomplishing anything, your last resort is to get into a scrap with somebody. Like, to me, that's the last resort of a player that can't impact the game in any other way. And in that sense, hey, maybe that's why you go to it, right? You go to that because nothing else I'm doing right now is working, right? So hey, at least I can give my team this. So this isn't a blanket statement. How dare the Devils ever think about getting into it? But sometimes by the time you get to the third period, I'm like, listen, it's already over, right? Like, the time has come and gone. The best thing you can do is start getting back to the core identity of what you are. And all of a sudden, after 50 minutes of lackadaisical hockey, the Devils start to dial it up. They start to turn it on, and Dawson Mercer gets himself a goal, right? And you find Timo Meyer getting himself a goal. And some of those sequences come together. And I think it does, at least for me, bring me back to neutral on the team and say, right, it can still fundamentally be there. I think it's disappointing that something through the practice sessions is not developing this cohesion in the absence of two critical players. And it feels like they have to keep it's like Groundhog Day. Every game the Devils take the ice, it's like they have to relearn who fundamentally they are individually and who they are collectively as a team. And then midway through the third period, they go, oh, that's right. I can make great cross ice passes. Oh, right. I can get in front of the net here and get a nice rebound, easy put back goal. Like, that's actually, I think, one of the more annoying things for me early in the season. It's like, why do you guys keep forgetting who you are? Like, that's what it feels like.
I just think that, look, the reason why they got back into the game was physicality in the third period. They came out there and they were better on the boards, stronger on the boards. They were hitting more hits in the third period. Smith was laying everybody out that was in front of the net, And Smith, I told you, Smith had his best period of the season for the Devils. Best period.
Yeah. Best period
period of the season for the Devils. And he went out there and he was physical. Palat was a little more physical on the boards. Listen, Bastian and Lazar were more physical. The whole team just went out there and they played hard, they played quick, and they were winning puck battles. And they weren't as soft as they were in the first 40 minutes. And that's what really pushed them to obviously get those 2 goals and to have a chance to win this game, late in the game. But, it's tough, man. It's so hard to sit here as a 7-5-1 team and be like, oh man, this is the end. It's not. Listen, we're a great team. We're still a great team. We have those flaws. And we were talking, via text. When Jack and Nico come back, we're still going to have these same flaws. There's things that need to be fixed. Being a soft team, through 20 minutes or through 40 minutes is not going to get the job done, And, a lot of Devils fans, around the country when, Biz on TNT, during that Colorado game, we're playing Colorado, said, listen, without the power play and without Jack, we're a 500 team. We're playing like that. Right now we're playing like that. And we are so much better and so much more capable of playing to a higher standard. And I think, that's why I think coaching for me this season so far is a big factor. Like, what's going on in that locker room too? Who is stepping up with Jack and Nico gone? Your captain's gone. Who is the next guy up? We assume that Nico's, obviously speaking up in the locker room.
Sure.
But, for you, do you see someone like Timo maybe stepping up? Do you see like maybe Palat is never really going to get demoted because he is one of those motivators? Maybe Smith is staying in the lineup because he's one of those veteran guys that just gets the young guys up. That's my biggest argument with coaching to players, right? And that fine line.
But that's where I can't figure this out. Sorry, not to cut you off, but that's where I can't figure it out because, to your point, like, you can't coach stepping up. Like, like, what are you coaching? This is fundamentally, and this is an excuse for Lindy Ruff or the coaching staff. They made mistakes. They're going to make mistakes, right? Like, plain and simple. But you cannot coach going out and starting the game with energy, starting it with drive and focus, right? Like, you cannot coach that. And inside the locker room, I think I can understand, first of all, like, Nico is the captain and the leader of this team. So losing him to an injury, that's going to affect you. Tyler Toffoli, he's been excellent to start the season. Is he here long enough to take that veteran leadership role and step up and speak up? Maybe not. And I think maybe the hardest part about this is that there are very few, but honestly, the only guy that I would point to, and there's probably only 2 or 3 maybe right now early in the season, Mikey McLeod would be the guy I would point to say speak up in the locker room. Why? Because he's the only guy that's performed consistently night over night on the ice. Like, that might actually be a hard part for these players right now, is like, I'm going to Dougie Hamilton. I'm going to step up in the locker room and say, hey, boys, we got to get it done tonight. Oh, I'm sorry, Dougie. Were you the guy kissing the boards while they were having an odd man rush against the Colorado Avalanche for a goal? Like, I think that's a part of it, right? Some guys, and Dougie is included in this, really good offensively, willing to take those rips. Dawson Mercer, again, The problem too, a little bit might be that they are such a young team. Some of their best players are some of their youngest players. And when a guy like Dawson, who struggled early in the year, is he going to step up and go, listen, guys, follow my lead? I mean, follow your lead? Follow your lead to goose eggs left and right? You know what I mean? Like, so I wonder if that's actually a part of what's going on here. And then maybe, Lindy Ruff saying, well, if none of you are going to speak up, I'll speak up, right? And I think the only way that coaches can really perform that action is pulling guys, is making decisions and sending messages to the rest of the players by saying, hey, we have a standard. If you're not up to it, at some point, I need to pull the trigger here and make some type of change.
Yeah, and going to what C Bones is there saying too. How do you fire him? Like we're not going to fire Ruff. So going back to the beginning of obviously this live, I don't want to fire Ruff. It's the inconsistency that I see from Ruff. Right? He, like you said, he benched Timo, he benched Marino. Is he going to bench Palat? I would love to see it because he deserves to be benched. He's benching Holtz because Holtz he makes mistakes. Offensively and defensively, he's turning the puck over.
Well, see, and I'll even push on that one, and he has made mistakes. Like Holtz has made mistakes, but that's the one. Like that's one of the ones I don't entirely like. I get doing it based on performance, right? But you're like, but he has not been the biggest problem, right? If you're listing the guys that have been inconsistent based on expectations and roles coming into the season, I'm not going to look at Alexander Holtz and be like, oh, well, you've been the linchpin of all of our problems. No, I'm going to look at a lot of other players that are not performing up to it. Timo Myers now come on after a slow start. Palat is still languishing through this thing, right? We've talked highly of Lazar for moments. Erik Haula is another guy that I look at and I say, are we sure that we're getting everything we expected out of you? Now, just again, 7-5-1, right? So we're talking 13 games into the season here. But these are the guys that you look around at, and I think it's easy, and it's maybe justifiable. Young player, not a lot of experience. Listen, I'll be honest with you. You could tell me that Luke Hughes should have been sat down at some point for some of his performances over a given period. Mm-hmm. But I understand why you don't sit him down. I understand what he means to this team, right? But offensively, we haven't seen from him what we expected coming into this year. In the absence, especially of his brother, you would almost think, hey, let's try to get Luke cooking offensively. And that's why I like one of the changes. Let's get him with Marino. Let's get him away from this bottom pairing, and let's just start to unleash him offensively and say somebody has to start getting this done for us.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues up and down the lineup. And
yeah, by the way, right? All we're doing, and then this, and then this, and then this.
I agree with you. I agree with you with Holtz. He's a younger player that's getting his real taste of being in the lineup in the NHL now, where he's a staple for the first dozen games, which is what you wanted for Holtz. And I think that he's going to have those growing pains, but to see him with like scorers, playmakers on a top two line, I just think needs to happen. And it's so difficult for me to sit here and say, all right, well, he was benched basically in the third period. He played maybe 30 seconds to 45 seconds on the power play. Dude, he's going to get scratched on Tuesday. I'd be willing to bet that Lindy Ruff is going to scratch him for Willman on Tuesday against the Jets in Winnipeg. I just have a feeling it's coming. And I have a feeling you're still going to see Palat on the first line. I don't think that's going to change. Or on the second line, whatever you call it, 1A, 1B, we're calling it now, obviously, with the absence of Jack and with Nico. Sure. So I don't think that's going to change. I don't think you're going to see where Palat really should be on that third line because of the absence of our two stars right now. But, I think Palat, like you always mention with Smith, like we know what Smith is, right? He's going to be held accountable for what he does, but we know what type of player he is. Mm-hmm. Do we really know what type of player Holtz is yet? We know he has offensive abilities, but with his limited minutes, is it fair to say right now that he should just stay on that fourth line and not be on the ice when you saw him make two incredible passes, in the slot to give two incredible scoring chances in that third period?
And honestly, I actually think that's the thing that I've liked the most that I've seen from him. He has that burst and he can obviously finish, and he's got that very little quick flick shot that is beautiful when he has those looks. But I actually think that, to your point, he's done a really nice job drawing attention, having a gravity to his play and his puck possession, and then setting up very good looks for teammates. And that's something that I'd like to see a little bit more of. And so I 100% agree with you. When you think about burying him, so to speak, down there on a bottom line with him on the line with Bastian just makes no sense to me whatsoever. Like I do not understand having those guys live together here. And I also, let's just I want to make sure we cover just a couple of things here. What did you feel like you saw from Nosek in this game?
Coming back from injury, he didn't have any effect on the game at all. He didn't play much at the end of the game. Neither did Tierney. You didn't see them play because they didn't have good games. Bastian didn't have a good game. Lazar didn't have his best game either. we have a problem right now with our third and fourth line, and there's so much flip flopping, and this is where I kind of say where I'm upset with what's going on coaching wise. Even last year, we had more of stability with who was going to be on which lines. You knew McLeod was going to center that fourth line, right? You just knew it was going to happen. So, I think that with new players coming in like Noshek, like Tierney, like Lazar playing now, like Holtz being on the fourth line and when he was on the third line, there's a lot more what ifs, and there is absolutely zero consistency with the third and fourth lines. And I think that is the biggest problem for me with what Ruff is doing, because you're not going to get any players to be comfortable and to have the wherewithal to know who their line mates are when it's consistent juggling, which was our point too. Maybe that's why Luke Hughes was staying with Smith, just for the consistency of who he knew he was playing with. And I wonder, is that the big issue right now with our depth, knowing that we can get the third and fourth line rolling out there and forecheck really well,
Well, and again, so like it's like I feel like I'm like defending the coaching staff on this. When Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier go down, what do you want, right? The lines are going to see shuffled no matter what, right? The one thing I think that actually should come out of this, though, and we say, listen, ready? What have I gotten wrong? Luke Hughes has not come out lighting the world on fire to start this season. I still have a lot of confidence in him, but it's looked like he's trying to build into it, and he's very defensive minded right now about what his responsibilities are, and I appreciate that. Yet I thought there'd be some more goal scoring early for him. The other guy, though, that I thought was spot on with his performance in the playoffs last year is McLeod. Something needs to change here about what pairing he ends up on when everybody is at full strength health, because I just think that he can be a Nico for one of those top two lines right now. That's the way I look at the impact that he can have depending on the pairings you're going to go with. And in the short term, we've seen him up there at the top line. I like that. I like him working with Jesper. I like him working with Toffoli. I do want to see Palat get rotated out of there. And I wonder if you get Dawson Mercer cooking a little bit here, and we saw him start to get going tonight, maybe, I don't mind him being the third line anchor at the center position and then building up from there above him. And at some point, maybe you just talk about who are we rotating around through the center spot. Erik Haula, until you're going to show me you got something, man, you can get bumped down as far as you need to. Maybe that's something you agree. Like, I would like to see that from the coaching staff of you earn what you get. And if you're not earning it, then guess what? There is no spot that I will not put you to, whether it's off the ice completely or on one of the lower line combinations.
I think without Jack and Nico, your third and fourth lines are just two fourth lines. That's how I look at it. You have two fourth lines, basically your third and fourth line. I'm fine with Erik Haula centering the.
We have a 1A and a 1B, and we have two fours.
Yeah, it's really what it is right now, and I'm fine with Haula playing on the fourth line center and putting McLeod to the third line. I would like to see McLeod with Holtz. I think McLeod is a defensive-minded centerman that's going to win a lot of faceoffs, and Holtz is going to get the puck. He's going to get into space, get the puck, and then you have McLeod that you can fall back on as your center too, and maybe putting him with Mercer, when Nico and Jack are back, and especially if Mercer starts to get hot. But, Mercer can play center really well. He has a really good percentage on his faceoffs, and I'm very confident with him playing center too. So
he's been very strong this season on the faceoff. We mentioned that last episode that's actually been that was one of the highlights before he got a goal and hopefully gets going. That was the big thing, is it was winning 58% of his faceoffs early in the season.
Yeah, and if Bastian keeps playing the way he's playing, I know how you feel about him. He's got to get scratched. It's Willman's going to do very similar things than Bastian's going to do too. They're going to do very similar things, and Bastian's just not.
I would play Willman right now over Bastian. Now.
Listen, he had some good moments in the forecheck on the third period, but the whole Devils team did, because it looked like they had the Caps on their heels. But it's just his consistency is just nowhere to be found. I think he has one assist. Correct me if I'm wrong. Palat has shown no offense at all either. It's the whole team. Obviously, I just don't want to pick on certain guys, but when you go up and down this lineup, they damn well know what they need to do and what they're not doing. We slowly simplified our game in the first 10 minutes against the Caps tonight. And then all of a sudden it went out the window. Out the window where we were forechecking, crisp passes through the neutral zone, smart hockey, a little bit more defensive hockey, getting used to what was going to happen against the Caps and their style of play. And then we just fed into it. We went on our heels, and you had veteran guys that were taking advantage of it. We weren't utilizing our speed. We were losing every puck battle. And it's up and down the lineup. You have to play so much better defensively to be a strong top 5 team in the NHL. Yep. And it goes back to what I talked about from the beginning of the year, minus injuries, that we're supposed to be this top 5 NHL team. Like, it's not going to come easy to you. You know, and I'm wondering if,
Right.
and I'm wondering if this like young core, like there's not that chirping, you know, from a player in their ear being like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, let's go. Like, we're supposed to be this top 5 NHL team. Let's play like it. And again, we're 7-5-1. We're in the mix. We're still in the 3rd spot in the Metro. The world is not coming crashing down right now. But if we want to be that top 1, 2, 3 team in the Metro, we got to do something differently. And we can see the writing on the wall. You know, so for me, it starts with I'd really love to see, and I don't want to pick on Ruff either and the coaching staff because Green has done phenomenally with the power play. Listen, the coaching staff is fine. You know, I'm okay with the coaching staff. I'm not okay with the inconsistency tonight, especially with what we saw in the first 2 periods and the line juggling toward the end of the game when you got to get your offensive guys out there in the last 5 minutes. Like you
Yep.
got to make sure that you're shifting correctly. And I just thought that Ruff didn't shift correctly at all toward the end of the game.
Yeah, I think we can very much keep this as an isolated conversation around this game and not liking what we saw and understanding you don't have players. That's all right. I think both of us would be perfectly content. And I think the funny thing it's always results oriented, right? The Devils lost this game. So in the world where Ruff made a dozen changes throughout the course of the game and mixed it all up and they lost, we'd say, boy, you know, get your fingers out of the pie, buddy, right? Like let them cook, let these players work together. So that's also something that I think I always try to remember in any team that I'm watching is that you cannot always just be results oriented. As in, so I'll use the NBA as the example. A lot of times when we watch the Nets, we'll have fans come in for Locked On, and they'll say, "What are they doing? Why do you have Royce O'Neal out there? He went 3 of 15 from beyond the arc." Yes, but the shots were good. They were wide open, and he's a career 38% three-point shooter, and he's done it for 7, 8 years in the league, right? With consistency. So you can't just go, puck doesn't go in the net. That means that the lineups were all wrong, the combinations were bad, etc. However, the one thing that has carried over here has been a laziness or lackadaisical start to many of these games. Coming up here in a second, I want to talk about the defense because while we're not going to overreact after 13 games to most things, this is a thing worth overreacting to because the Devils are among the worst defensive collective units in the NHL right now. We'll get into that here in just 1 second. That's because I first need to tell you about our friends, our good friends over at Raycon. Oh, baby, you know that I talked about Raycon products before. Those in-ear, perfectly fit earbuds with that 32-hour battery life. Absolutely excellent listening to whatever I feel like. It's the holiday season. How quickly do you go to Christmas music, Dan, or any type of holiday music, frankly?
It's got to be after Thanksgiving.
After Thanksgiving. So, you know what? If it's Bing Crosby, I could probably play it in the middle of July, but that's neither here nor there. Raycon first made its name for itself in the audio space with products like those everyday earbuds, and they now, though, have expanded their entire business with the introduction of Raycon Home and Raycon PowerTech. Their 5-star reviewed Magic 180 cable allows you to charge iOS, micro USB, and Type-C devices 8 times faster with what I was going to call the Devils, but cannot right now, 100-watt power delivery. Their faucet filter also gives you ultra-filtered water in your tap against chlorine and heavy metals. It's a must-have for ensuring that your water that you use to wash your face and clean your dishes and brush your teeth is, you know, actually clean. Raycon's known for delivering high quality and thoughtful features at half the price of other premium brands, and it's no wonder that their products have racked up tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. To get everyone in the holiday shopping a little bit early, Raycon is currently offering 20% on everything on their website and with select products at up to 50% off. So beat the crowds and save now. Trust me about Raycon. You don't want to miss out on this early Black Friday sale. Hurry over now to buyraycon.com/THPN to get 20% or up to 50% off site-wide. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to score up to 50% on Raycon products. Buyraycon.com/THPN. Oh, Danny. Oh, Danny boy. The fans are surely calling for something to change. The Devils' defense is atrocious.
Yes.
They have given up the most 3-goal games in the entire NHL. They gave up 4 goals tonight, which, by the way, it reminded me of the Colorado game where it took Colorado a few tries to get that empty netter. Didn't take long for the Caps. They said, let me go ahead and put this one away very quickly here. That is a concern I have unless you tell me that Miller, who is about to be ready to get into the mix here, if you tell me that he was brought in this offseason because you believe he can be this stabilizing force somewhere inside of that, okay. But that's it. There is no other option. There is no other solve here. and they do not have out of the 6 defensive players that they have on the ice tonight, how many are defensive defensemen?
Siegenthaler and Marino.
That's it, right? So you
And
only
you
have
can argue
2.
Ball. You can argue Ball, but he
You
had
can argue Ball, which by the way, and this isn't, we're not going to drill down on Ball here, but he has been inconsistent to start the season. He has not quite given us what we anticipated. So that, I mean, right now, that would be my, if there's one thing I plan to flag about that over the next now 7 more games, we talk about 20 game sample size, the defense has just been so inconsistent and the communication seems non-existent with them that these odd man rushes over these last couple of games, like what does Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier not being on the ice have to do with this total just breakdown on that end of the ice?
Yeah, tonight I don't think it was the defense. Actually, I think it was the offensive players that were really causing the problem for the Devils. I thought,
Yeah, well, yeah, and you can lump it all together, right?
yeah,
Like,
but to your point, being bottom 5 in the NHL with goals against, a lot of it is just the consistency. A lot of it is knowing, what you need to do, your defensive responsibilities. And the problem now is we're a little slow. We're slow off the puck. We're getting beat because of fundamentals. It's Dougie Hamilton on that power play is a prime example against Colorado. It's basically losing a man in front of the net, where you're both chasing behind the net. That's a problem. It's Smith is a 7th defenseman. We can agree on that. We need a solid 6th defenseman. We need a defensive defenseman in the league that is your stay-at-home guy that is just going to make plays. And the Devils don't have it right now. It's again, it's I hate to keep drilling this, but it's the fundamentals, right? It's looking at what Ball was doing on that 3rd goal given up by the Devils. Ball was basically at the blue line. Smith just changed. Smith was circling around to the same side of the ice as Ball, not realizing that it's Ball, not his partner Luke Hughes that was on, So that's the issue. It's those little simple things. You have to know where your defensive pairing is, and you have to know the fundamentals of hockey. And right now, the Devils defense, for whatever reason, just doesn't have it. It comes back to the simplistic parts of the game. Siegenthaler hasn't played his best too. He had a great year last year and he's played down. So do I think that it will come? I think it will come. I think the Devils will get better defensively. Do I think that with the team the way it is right now, this defensive core, I think we got an issue, and I hope I'm proven wrong. And I hope the Devils can turn the page and our offensive guys can play some really good defense too. But I think you and I can agree. We've already talked about who's on the trading block, will be on the trading block this year. And it's something that you consider now. You think about the possibilities of who you'd want to get in here, because with the 6 guys on the ice defensively, it's not going to get it done in the playoffs, And I know we're very early to even talk about playoffs, but it's just not a recipe for success with what we're doing right now.
And we're going to come in, I think our next episode here, maybe in between, right? And we were debating this. Danny and I were standing on opposite sides of a lot of things tonight in our text messages, but not in an angry way, but just in okay. We were talking about, when do you start to have the discussion about targets, right? Trade targets. Well, 13 games in, you're going to have that conversation. Well, no, you're not going to. We're not going to sit here and say, well, this is who they need to go get at all costs, because other teams around the NHL are still figuring out, are we buyers? Are we sellers? Are we competing? Or are we trying to tank ourselves like the San Jose Sharks definitely are trying to lose as many games as they can this season.
Right.
But putting together that list and putting together the teams that are teetering on are we coming or going is going to start to open it up a little bit. So there are a couple of names. We won't say any of them right now, but I think it's worth mentioning for the simple fact that these decisions have to get made at some point, and it's going to be up to these pairings to say, no, we've got this. Or Miller to come in and say, I am a legitimate 6th defenseman, right? Unlike maybe Smith, who we think is really a 7th, and you want to be a healthy scratch more often than not. So we'll definitely get into that next time. The last point that I want to make here that we can dive deeper in as we move forward as well is the goaltending. You said it there ahead of our first break. I think at some point here, we said in the offseason, it should be close to a 50-50 split between Vitek and Akira, because we think that Akira earned that, that opportunity based on the playoff performance last season. We haven't seen it really so far. He gets Vitek the quick pull. Schmid comes in. He performs well, gives up the first goal there, the 3rd goal there, which is not on him. It's another odd man rush. But I'd like to see Akira potentially get a legitimate full start, and then maybe 1 or 2 more games after that. I think it's okay to try to give him a little bit of a runway here and see if you can get a hot hand going so we can get a little bit of consistency, between the pipes, which we know is still predicated about how the play is in front of them.
Here's what I think is going to happen if I'm a betting man. I think Akira will be in on Tuesday. I think Vitek will be in on Thursday against the Penguins. And I think you're going to see Akira Schmid against the Rangers at home Saturday the 18th because of
little playoff juice.
Just because, the energy's flowing, you know what I mean? Putting a little pressure on the Rangers too, knowing that they couldn't beat him at all in the playoffs. I agree with you 100%. This is one thing we actually really do agree on tonight with text messaging, that Akira and Vitek should be getting closer to the same amount of game time.
Yeah.
And we're fine with 60-40 for Vitek. That's fine. In all reality, that's okay.
55-45.
That's fine. Yeah. But you want to see it. And we can't, after the last 5 games, you can't tell me it's goaltending. You can't. You can say a goal or two, maybe Vitek or Akira should have had fine. But you can't confidently, as a hockey fan, be like, oh, this is all on the goaltender. No, this is all on the defense. This is all on the defense. It's all on soft play in front of the net and things that obviously need to be cleaned up. So, I mean, would you like to see Akira for the next 3-4 games, after Vitek gets pulled, or you still want to see, maybe Akira Tuesday and you agree with maybe Vitek on Thursday?
Well, I think if Akira plays on Tuesday and he plays strong, then I think you give him another game. And
I agree with that.
Right. So, basically what I'm talking about is if you can give me a goaltender that gives up 2 goals or less without being pulled, which technically Vitek accomplished that tonight. If you give me that, then you get another start. And if you give me that again, or it's a consistent game, you get another start. And it's funny. I think right now it's been weird because only the difference for me between these 2 goaltenders has been, I think in the moments when you've needed a big step up play, Akira's actually given you that during games. Then when we got to the overtime, the shootouts early in the season, I thought, well, if you could pull a goaltender before a shootout, I would put Vitek between the pipes there because Schmid looked a little bit lost in those instances. So neither one of them has really, has claimed the opportunity. But I think in game, and we said this about the playoff run last year, Schmid just seems to rise to the big moment a little bit better than Vitek. And I say that acknowledging that Vitek had a sprawling across net save a couple of games ago. You're like, hey, there you go. But I don't know if you've noticed this too. On that save, he dropped his stick to make sure he get both hands out there. He dropped his stick a lot in that game, though, in non-stick dropping situations. It's like I feel like ever since the start of the season, Vitek has slowly been having last year's postseason creep in on him. And I'm terrified about what that means over the next 10 to 15 games because his consistency just hasn't been there.
I mean, Akira played really bad in those 2 games early in the season. I think
he played awful too. Oh no, by the way, yeah, Akira. There's a reason why Akira has not gotten the 3 or 4 games in a row here, because every time he gets a chance, he kind of goes ahead and says, yeah, I'll give you 2.5 good periods and then 10 minutes of absolute garbage. So 100%. It's why it's an overarching problem.
Right now, you could say, any NHL fan looking in, any hockey fan, we have average goaltending. Our goaltending is what it is. We have bad defense,
Yeah.
And we have a great offense, and that's why I think, especially for me, because I am the crazy fan that's going to get emotional in the moments that are actually happening in front of you, like all hockey fans are, of their teams. And it's when you see it and you say you're reactionary. You're reactionary to like, oh my God, man, you got to make that save. Or, oh my God, man, clear the front of the net. But when you actually look at the plays broken down, which you and I do a lot, we look at the tape, we kind of look at the things that are happening. It's like, wow, we went into this thinking that goaltending was going to be the massive question mark. And now you just look at everything in totality in the first 13 games and you're like, wow, our defense sucks pretty bad right now. And I thought it would be the opposite. I thought it'd be like, oh man, defense playing decent and goaltending is just not good if there was going to be that one thing. So, I don't think it's gonna make a big difference because, like you say, play the hot hand goaltending wise. We agree on that 100%. I don't think it'll make a massive difference until we figure out what we need to do fundamentally defensively. And I'm hoping, do you see Miller coming right back in the lineup? When he's healthy again, do you see him just replacing Smith right away? Because I don't. I don't think Ruff is willing to take him out right away.
No, I think it depends on what decision you're making with Luke, right? Like, are you moving Luke up and pairing him? You're going to pair him on the second line now? Okay, then that opens up an opportunity on your final defensive pairing to say, hey, splash a Smith, a dash of Miller. Like, you can kind of mess around with it a little bit more. So no, but I mean, just straightforward. No, I don't think it's not Miller. Okay, plug him in. We're all set here. No, it's going to be more of the same. I think trying to figure out how it can work well between all these combinations. And I guess, what would you prefer? A ball Smith line or a ball Miller line?
A Ball Miller just in their play, But honestly, I'll be completely honest with you. Like, I would not mind if, like, say Ball has just a bad game. Like, say he goes into Winnipeg and he just has a bad game, turning the puck over. If Lindy is going to send messages like he did with benching Timo and benching Marino, sit down Ball for a game. Make him be a healthy scratch for a game. Put Miller in with Smith or put with whoever. Put Miller with Siegenthaler. Put Smith with Dougie. Whatever it might be. That would probably be a disaster, actually, Dougie and Smith. So let's not do that. But
Within reason.
Point being is, if you're going to make those statements as the coach with Lindy, and I think that's why, I'm looking at it very, very like under the microscope right now. I want him to be consistent with who he sits down. I really do. And I get the veteran presence with Palat, but if you're going to,
but if anyone is eligible, everyone is eligible to be sat down, right? Yeah.
Especially if you're one of the leaders of this team, and Palat, being that veteran, should be one of the leaders of the team. He has an A on his chest,
Yep.
So if you're strutting around on the ice with that A, then you got to prove it, and he might be doing that in the locker room. We don't know, we're not in the locker room, but you got to see it on the ice, man. You just got to see it on the ice. And to me, it's because I was so high on Palat in the preseason. I was so dead wrong. I thought he was going to come out hot. I thought he was going to get a lot of points this year. I thought he was going to be, I was worried about losing Tatar, and being that, physical guy in a third line that is going to be that puck possession guy.
You thought Palat could bring that, though.
And I thought Palat was just going to make up for that tenfold, and bringing the offense. And I was dead wrong, and those are the types of guys that we're missing in this lineup, are the Tatars, are the Boquists, believe it or not, that played on the third line, that were puck possession guys, that were forechecking guys. That's what we're missing. And that's what we need from Nosek. That's what we need from Lazar. That's what we need from Bastian, who's not doing it consistently. So again, we can continue to harp on what we see what we see that's negative. The defense as a whole, it's offensive players too. The defensive whole is the big gap that we right now. That's the big black hole that needs to be addressed.
and I think over the next handful of games too, we'll be able to watch, even in the absence of certain players. Just to your point, it's like we can watch Lazar and we can watch Nosek and we can watch Palat and we can watch these guys. And I'm going to say it right now. People aren't going to want to hear it. You can watch them regardless of winning or losing, and be able to examine their play and how the combinations look and if they are being productive. The problem with these last couple of games is you would make the case. It's like, yeah, why'd you lose? Because you weren't playing good hockey. Like that's what's going on right now. It's okay to lose games. It's okay to play like sound hockey and come up short. It's not our right to go in this game and say, oh, well, it was just an empty netter that made it 4-2. Otherwise, they had a chance. No. Right? Like, you don't get to just hang your hat on this little burst you had for 7-8 minutes in the third period and make it feel like it's all okay.
Right. Sorry to interrupt you. We're one of the best teams in the league offensively. Yeah. I don't want to lose games.
Did you hear the stat tonight about the power play? The Devils away from New Jersey are 50% on the power play. They're like 30% at home. So it's the pressure of the fans wanting that puck in the back of the net.
I don't want to lose games like this, man. It's like you just said. Like, I'd rather be in like a 2-2 type of game, and like you're going to lose 3-2 games. You're going to lose 2-1 games. You're going to lose 3-1 types of games. Yeah. But if you hustle and you're playing well, I don't want to be taking 40 minutes off a game. Like this is the most frustrating thing as a fan. It's the most frustrating thing.
With how talented they are offensively, there should never be a game where it's not you're down 1-0, 1-1, up 2-1, 2-2. It should always be a back and forth battle, even at the worst, right? At worst, it should always be, hey, man, we're coming after you. We're going to give up goals. We're going to get goals, and we're going to be scrapping throughout this thing, right? Not a down 1-0, down 2-0. And like asleep at the wheel, essentially. The last thing I wanted to mention here about the goaltending, just to dial it back in, was just that these stat lines for them. So it's been 9 games for Vitek, 4 games for Akira. 12 goals against for Akira, 28 for Vitek. Expected goals against is 11 and 26. Neither one of them has saved above expected, but Akira has been marginally better there in that category. The overall saves on unblocked shots, Vitek's actually been pretty good. 941 save percentage on unblocked shots. Okay. That is, again, still marginally below expectations, but like it's funny to look inside those numbers and say, it's not like they're not far off of expectation based on the situational hockey that they've been put in. And that to me is a little bit surprising when we just think about, hey, I wouldn't hang my hat on either one of these guys. And it only further amplifies the defense in front of them, which we knew was going to need to be consistent at a minimum in order to maximize what are two good but not elite level goaltenders. So a lot of these stats bear out. They're playing all right. It's that sometimes, the odd man rushes and the inconsistent play in front of them leads to these moments where, frankly, you think it's hard to know where your winger is supposed to be when you want to make a 2-line pass. Think about how hard it is to know where you want to be as a goaltender when you're not sure if the defensemen know where they want to be together, etc. So,
yeah,
all that to say, I guess.
No, you're right. Listen,
podcast.
That's a great way to end this episode too. That's what it's about. We need to really go back to what we do as a team, play our system, but really hone down on simplifying games, man. Because it's stop being soft, play hard. I want to see the Devils play hard for 60 minutes. I think we've done that maybe twice this season. Out of the first 13 games, you can't tell me that we've done that over half our games. We haven't. We did it when we played in Montreal and we won 5-2. We were great throughout that game. But every other game, there has been lapses of just soft play, tentative play, not digging for pucks. I can't see that anymore. And I don't want to change the system. I don't want anybody to think I want to change the system. I know you don't either. The Devils have an identity of who we are. It's just a matter of playing defense strong, defense well. And I do think that you can get at the trading deadline when it comes. I think you can get someone that will make a difference on this team that can fit in if they're a stay-at-home defenseman. I really do.
Yeah, I have the name exactly on my lips that I want to get to, and we'll have some other guys as well. And by the way, the names we talk about today will not be the names we talk about in 3 weeks or in a month. But once we tell you these guys, then you can go watch their games and see if you like them, and also see, is their team losing? Is their team trending towards someone that'll be sellers? So we can hopefully get in there. Quick, strong point. I think this is what Lindy Ruff passed around in the locker room following this loss.
Mop the ice.
I'm not here to learn how to mop. I'm here to learn how to play hockey.
Mop it.
Until this team learns how to play hockey, they may just have to mop the ice. Danny, top of the dome, get us out the door.
Got to play D to win games. Got to play D to win games. That's it.
On YouTube, on Twitter, at NJDevilsPL, at Danny the Face, at Adam Armbrecht, at Devils Puck Luck. We'll be back in probably over the weekend talking about some of these players we want to look at and where this team needs to go because, again, we're fine. It's all
That means you'll be all right. We're going to be all right.
We'll see you next time.